Today's episode, it's so important because, nowadays we get easily distracted by certain things just coming in, whether it's life, whether it's obviously technology plays a factor, environments could distract us, things out of our control, our stress. We're all going through some type of stress to some degree in this world. So we have a lot of things that could just distract us from moving forward and us growing. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how, where they come up, and also how you can identify them, but also how can you work through them. Let's get right into it. So the very first step is identifying the distractions itself, how it comes up, and how many times maybe it has come up in the past, and we just kind of mowed right through it because, life be lifing, right? The first step is identifying it. And this step is so crucial because it helps us figure out when those triggers come up, what sparks it, and also how we can work through it. Because chances are there's not the first time that those particular triggers have come up. It's not the first time the distractions have come up. They've come up time and time again. So if you're watching this episode and you're feeling like I'm being distracted again, I'm not too sure what it is, the first thing you need to do is just sit down with a pen and paper, or just with your thoughts itself, and just jotting down or just think, what are some of the distractions that are holding me back? And I'm gonna very much emphasize this, not so much distractions that you may be thinking others are doing. Focus within yourself first. Doing that, we can literally work head on to overcome those distractions. But at the same time, we sometimes are our own worst enemy. So it's very important, this entire exercise and working through distractions, you start with you. Because a lot of times we point and we do the blame game, but chances are should we be blaming others, or should we be kind of having that deep conversation with ourselves? So once you have identified the distractions, now it's time for you to figure out a way and create an environment so that you can feel less distracted. So studies have shown that a distractive-free zone helps a lot when it comes towards your growth, paying attention, and just kind of working through your to-do list or your goals or your intentions. With some of the studies that I looked through for this episode, the one thing that they all said was our distractions can increase our stress. And I was like, you know what? That makes sense. Think about it this way. If you're at a table or desk or whatever, and you have all these things around you, just piled up around you, are you able to fully pay attention to what it is that you're working on? Are you able to fully pay attention to what it is that you're doing? Chances are no, right? That is just going to heighten your stress even more, because now you're like, oh crap, I can't work on this while all this is going on. You may feel like you have to now clear up everything just so that you can work. And that is literally it. By doing this, you set yourself up for success, and you set yourself up for a continuous productivity of work, and also just sticking to your goals or intentions, whatever it is that you're working on. But by removing the distractions, you're able to work on it with a clear mind. All right, so let's talk about goals a little bit. When it comes towards goals, we will set sometimes some goals that are not quite matching where we are at. In a nutshell, we get frustrated, we get annoyed, we get upset. But chances are it's not the goal that's the problem. It could just simply, or it's not even just you, it could simply be the actual goal that you set. Chances are your goals are also probably not clear enough. Studies have indicated that people with well-defined goals, defined, understanding it as well, can increase their chances of achieving it by 30 to 40%. So this is why it's important when you set goals to make sure that you've clarified the purpose of it, how you're going to do it, which is the strategy, and is this something that I can actually do at this part of my life? Okay, so now we're going to talk about technology, right? We're on it right now, and our phones, our computers, our TVs, all of it could be a distraction. And unfortunately, we could get sucked in and warped into it to the point where we don't realize that we are so sucked and warped into it, and it distracts us from whatever it is that we need to be focusing on. So for example, I'll give you a little research I did of my own this past week. I noticed that on my phone, on average, a week, I'm on my phone 8 hours and 9 minutes. I was like, that's ridiculous. That's like a whole shift. So I decided to do a little bit of a dig deep in how I can reduce that. I just wanted to reduce it just a little bit because I understand that I use my phone for my business and my personal life, but there's certain areas I know I could reduce in it, which is like social media, and also creating more of establishing a routine of past a certain time, you're not in front of your computer, you're not on your phone in terms of doing work, which unfortunately I try it as often as I can, but sometimes I get tied up on a one-woman show. So by just taking a couple of steps, I reduced 8 hours to 6 hours and 4 minutes, I believe it was. Could have been a little bit more. But by just noticing that drop of 2 hours, I had to look at what areas did I lose it in and what areas did work. And one of the areas that I did lose in, which I was very happy about, was the social media aspect, which is a little bit tricky as an entrepreneur because we use social media for content creating. In my mind, I was consistently reinforcing the goal I was setting and consistently telling myself that this is what we need to do to reach that goal. And in a nutshell, I didn't quite get there, but I got pretty close. Now I'm still taking those exact same steps after that 1 week of me doing my own research. Now you're probably wondering, 23%, is that like a huge number? Having a 23% reduction of me having usage on my cell phone is a significant number for me, at least, and it made a huge difference. A couple of tips that I did take to make this work was I would put my cell phone in my bedroom. It was on loud, so I would still hear if I got a notification from family or my partner, or just even like a phone call from my partner or my family, however it worked, or from a client at that. So I still knew if I was being called for. Another thing is in the settings underneath notifications, certain notifications I had turned off specifically after a certain time of the day. Another thing I also did was I set a timer of how much hours I'm allowed to spend on specific apps. The 2 apps that I was trying to reduce were the ones where I would set the timer per day for 1 hour and 20 minutes. That was all I was allotted. Now, to be realistic, I did go over that a little bit here and there because I was creating content. But past that point, once it would come up, because there would be a message that would pop up on your screen that would say, hey, you've hit your daily allotment. Then I'd be like, okay, it is what it is. And it would go back in my room on my charger. Although it was only 23%, I am continuing it. And I understand that it's a progress. And so sometimes when I see people are like, I've drastically dropped it from this to this, I have to understand that everything is a progress. So the 23% to me is a significant win. I'm trying to go down a little bit lower each week. Obviously, everything, it all depends. What week is, if I'm doing something else, but every week I'm trying to reduce it as much as I can because yes, that is a distraction. What I also learned is when my phone was in my bedroom, I was able to mow through my work far with ease, like just a lot faster. I was finishing my day earlier and then I can actually start the stuff that I had set up for the following day. It made me really think, okay, how much have I been wasting my time by being distracted? And now I'm trying to implement that a bit more because I want to allocate my time more to myself, more to my family and my loved ones, and doing the things that I also love to do. I love this, but also the things that bring me joy as well, that usually sometimes I say I don't have enough time for. As we wrap up this episode, I encourage you to look at your own distractions. Look at the distractions that you have now, maybe some distractions that were holding you back before, so you're aware. So if it creeps back up, you know how to acknowledge it and work through it. And just remember, like, overcoming distractions is not going to be an easy fix. It's going to take time. It's a progress. But by doing little experiments like I did with my cell phone, you'll learn like how beneficial it is for you in the end. As always, I ask you to screenshot this episode, pop it in your IG or your TikTok story, tag us in it. You can tag me in it at Dope Life Coach on TikTok and on Instagram at Dope Life Coach _ Greatly appreciate it. Share this episode also with your friends and ask them, like, what distractions are you having that's holding you back? In fact, in the comments below, talk about some of the distractions that you faced so far this year or even last year and how you also overcame them, because chances are we're not the only ones, and you could help somebody else with your story. So until next week, as always, walk with peace and walk with love.